I'm coming from Texas, and while Texas may not be on everyone's radar, I'd like to just share that we are both between California and Texas, the number one and two states for the amount of solar on the grid. So we're dealing with very similar challenges, and I'd like to kind of spend the next few minutes to just talk about what we're learning in this other context and hopefully plant some seeds for how it could work over here as well. So BASE. So I'm an advisor to BASE. I work there part-time. Happy to answer questions later, and also happy to connect you to the management team if the questions are too deep. But the focus of BASE is quite unique. We are really vertically integrating into what it means to power the grid. We are vertically integrating into building batteries. We are vertically integrating into supporting the deployment of those batteries to be super seamless for customers, and then helping the ownership model and monetizing those batteries on the power grid. And how that looks like in each state is going to be a little bit different, but I'll kind of talk about Texas first, and then we'll talk about where we're going in other states. So what do these batteries look like? They're attached to residential customers' houses, and they're very large. They're really grid-style batteries that are focused on how do we deploy megawatts at scale. So we do about 20 to 30 kilowatt hours, depending on the generation that we're doing. And we're about to launch a new generation. But we're doing these batteries in a way that, one, are super cheap to go deploy, two, super quick to go deploy, and three, really do talk to the grid as if they were large power assets. You know, the grid needs high fidelity of data. They need, call it 2-second data, really understand the state of charge, what's happening in that pack. And by engineering a product that is grid centric, it allows us to truly talk to the grid in a way that the grid is used to talking to hardware. So what does this mean? If you reimagine what it takes to put megawatts onto the grid, and you do so with the already existing built environment of the millions of people who are already connected to the grid, then we're able to deploy megawatts faster. We're able to go take those interconnections that customers already have, especially residential customers, and go deploy megawatts super quick. So as we look at how a behind the meter deployment product works, that can all happen in parallel. It's not serial, it's parallel. You can do thousands of deployments all at the same time. And what that gets you is just a fundamentally very different process. You know, a 100 megawatt or 50 megawatt grid scale battery, it's great. We should totally build those. But by the way, they take a lot. If you look at the interconnection queue, if you look at the permitting, if you look at all the studies that need to be done, they take a long time. But what do we have? We have customers who already have connections. And so we can utilize those connections to the grid to help get those batteries onto the grid. And the benefit is that customers don't have to pay for these batteries. We as a retailer in Texas, we pay for these batteries. The customer, the opportunity for them is that they get the resiliency of the batteries. And what the grid gets is that these batteries are always talking to the grid and looking to see when the grid is in need and sending power back when we're hitting system constraints, typically in the late evening as the sun's going down. And so providing really grid scale resource back to the grid, but doing so on a hyper distributed way with thousands of customers participating as that virtual battery. In Texas, again, different than the opportunity in California. We could talk about how that's different, but really customers get to choose their energy supplier. So what we do is we say, if you come join us as an energy supplier, it's very cheap to get this hardware. In fact, it's nearly free. And in exchange, you get way more power than any other battery that customers can currently choose from on the grid. So what do we see? We see thousands of customers. We just launched a few months ago. We see thousands of customers and quick deployments of these resources. These assets have in real time been supporting both customers' individual resiliency as the grid has gone down on local distribution networks. Those customers who were base customers and had that battery had no power quality issues. But then during times of constraint when the system was in need of more megawatts sending back to the grid. We coordinated these thousands of assets to all be producing power based on the local system constraints that they were all seeing. And there's nothing more valuable than actual megawatts in exactly the place where you need it, which is in the pockets of the load zones, instead of 300 miles down the street and hoping that the transmission system has capacity to move those megawatts down the street. One of the things that's really exciting about Texas that we're hoping other places will take a look at is the state. The state wants more megawatts on the grid, and they want it done faster. And so there is a proposal that is in both the House and the Senate that has a bipartisan support in Texas that streamlines the permitting process for behind-the-meter products at residential customer households. Effectively, what they have said is that anyone who wants to install a battery up to 100 kilowatt hours, the jurisdiction of that now resides at the state, and the state gives a thumbs up by right for anyone who wants to put that up, so long as you follow the stringent NEC and UL codes that already exist. So it's not that this is a cowboy approach to putting batteries on the grid. In fact, if anything, the NEC and UL codes are extremely onerous. They are super focused on fire safety. They are super focused on power quality. And so long as we all abide to standards that already exist, that permitting is by right within Texas. Well, how this looks a little bit different in other places that we're looking to move to is that we fully appreciate Texas is a very unique way of doing business, especially in the world of electricity. So we are partnering with utilities in a lot of different places throughout the US. We haven't announced any yet, but there's a lot of conversations. And these utilities can help their local communities deploy these batteries so that way residential customers get the resiliency that they're looking for, as well as the local grid gets the megawatts that they need, especially as the sun's going down in the evening. Thank you.